Last year, Luka Doncic did exactly what he promised to do. He helped take the Dallas Mavericks deep into the playoffs. In fact, he took them to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since Dirk Nowitzki was there. Sure, they got hammered by the Golden State Warriors, but it proved that Luka was for real in terms of playoff ability and more. But that's the thing, isn't it? We already knew he could play. The problem was at times, he couldn't get out of his own way, which has been proven by the beefs and fights he shocked the NBA by getting into. European League scuffles. Something that people forgot about Luka Doncic is that he came from the European leagues of basketball. During his time there, he absolutely lit up the competition and even won the MVP at just 18 years old. That's not too bad for a European player, as some skeptics would say, right? But as you might have expected, not everything was smooth while he was there. While he was on the Real Madrid team, he had an incident where he got ejected for hitting players twice, and then went on to rage against the refs. The first time was when he was trying to make a layup, and as he used his arm to get some space, he hit a player in the face so hard, unintentionally to be clear, that he was bleeding afterwards. Then later on, Luka was given a foul for a charge call and also hitting a player while doing that act. Luka wasn't happy with the call and he started to argue with the refs. It was then that he got thrown out. And then he promptly walked back in and started arguing with the refs again, telling them to recheck the footage to show that he didn't do anything wrong. As he left, followed by armed security, Luka went and kicked the walls of a tunnel to show his frustration. He would show that frustration when he came to the West. His own team. Surprised? You shouldn't be, given what he's had to endure with the Mavericks at times. You see, 2020 and 2021 was supposed to be the Mavericks' breakout year because of how Luka exploded in terms of production in his first playoffs. But while Luka was going off as usual and getting triple-doubles often, the rest of his team just wasn't giving the same amount of effort. So much so that Luka repeatedly and often called out his team in a beef-like way to say that they needed to put in more effort and have more passion because he couldn't do it on his own. Some might say that was arrogant, but having this issue within the team actually elevated them and eventually led them to going from the 10th seed in the playoffs to making it up to the 5th seed. There's a reason it's called tough love. Luka versus the Pacers. This particular game happened in 2019 during Luka's first season in the NBA. He was going up against the Indianapolis Pacers, who honestly had a defensive game plan to handle Luka Doncic. So much so that he was getting more and more impatient with every single block or foul called against him. In the first half of the game, a ref had called him for a reaching foul, and he argued so profusely with the ref that he got a technical. As the game went on, he got so angry that he kicked the ball, which got him ejected. He would get revenge in his own way later on, but this was just another case of Luka's impatience getting the better of him. Jalen Brown. During his rookie year, Luka was going up against the Boston Celtics, a very good team that year. During a key play, Luka had managed to get a steal and dish the ball to a teammate who made a big-time dunk. It was a solid and fair play all around. But Jalen Brown didn't like that Luka, a rookie, had done the Celtics dirty in his mind like that. As a result, while Luka was running down the court to get ready for defense, Jalen stood in his way and knocked him to the ground with a shoulder bump. Luka was almost hurt by the bump, and by the time he got up, he was very angry, to the extent that he went and shoved Jalen for what he did. Ironically, the refs called a technical on both players, even though Jalen was the instigator. Not to mention the dunk that came beforehand got a technical because of how long the player was hanging on the rim. All in all, the Mavericks got screwed because the refs weren't paying attention to the right offense, and Luka was done dirty here. Kelly Oubre. During a close fight with the Phoenix Suns in 2019, Kelly Oubre made a good play to put the Suns up by 1. With Dallas having the ball, they naturally gave it to Luka to take down the court. As he did, Oubre was there and he pounded the hardwood to let him know he was ready for whatever Luka had for him. He was very, very wrong about that. After acknowledging the challenge, Luka set up a play to which he drove hard to the left side of the basket, and he put up an off-balance shot that went in so easily, you'd think that he knew it would be that pretty. As he went back down the court, he smiled because he knew that he proved his worth and how good he was, and that Oubre shouldn't have ever challenged him. In short, why poke the bear when this bear can both dance and shoot? Exactly, you shouldn't. Marquis Chris. In December 2019, the Mavericks were up by a lot against the Golden State Warriors. After Luka went to make a shot, he got blocked by Marquis Chris in a legit play. Luka even acknowledged the great block by smiling. But the play was still going, so the two had some time to keep going. Chris made some choice comments to Luka after rebounding the ball after a failed shot by Luka's teammate. Luka tried to knock the ball away, and a scramble of sorts was done until Chris got so fed up with Luka that he shoved him into the crowd. Not cool. Luka naturally went and called out Chris and dared him to come and try it again. The various Mavericks and Warriors benches, as well as the refs, separated the two to ensure that no further incidents were had. The cheap shot was just that, cheap. And the joke was on Chris because he got the foul and the Mavericks still won the game by a large margin. Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is one of the best players in the NBA, and many feel if the right team is around, he could lead the Washington Wizards or another squad deep into the playoffs. But one time against the Mavericks, him and Luka Doncic were going at it all game long, to the extent that both players got technicals because of their scrappiness against one another. When Beal was eventually kicked out of the game, Luka not only clapped, but did a fake hug for Beal that Beal rebuked before leaving the court. The Clippers. Easily his most infamous feud, Luka versus the Clippers started truly in the bubble playoffs. The first-round matchup between the Los Angeles Clippers and the Mavericks was easily an all-time classic, not the least of which was because of Luka's play. But in one key game, things got physical. Marcus Morris has been in Doncic's face all series, but in the first half of Game 6, Morris was ejected for a blow to the head of Doncic on a drive. That was a clear flagrant and an easy call on ejection for Morris. Of course, Doc Rivers didn't see it that way during the between-quarter interview on ESPN. I think he got ejected because he's Marcus, to be honest. I thought he made a play on the ball and his arm followed through. It happens in every game. Doncic wanted to go back at Morris, but Boban Marjanovic held him back. Doncic grew up playing the more physical European game. He can handle blows and has a streak that will stand up for himself. That being said, the Mavericks lost the series. And they lost the rematch the following year, which the Mavericks helped set up by losing a key game in the regular season. But then last playoffs, the Mavericks went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Clippers didn't. So, you tell us who won. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at Luka and how he's shockingly gotten into many fights and feuds, including some with his own team? Are you glad that Luka has likely put this behind him and focused solely on advancing his squad? Or is he just one trigger away from fighting again? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time on the channel.